Good morning and welcome to Christ Table. So glad that you are here with us on an Easter Sunday morning. What an incredible day it is to be together with you. The high watermark of all the weeks of the year, Easter Sunday, one of the first celebrations that the church ever celebrated, continues on even until this day. In fact, in the very beginning, they would celebrate Easter every single Sunday. Now we celebrate it once a year, but we still remember the power of Jesus and his resurrection every other week and every other Sunday of the year. That's why we come together in celebration and remembrance, why we do the Lord's Supper, which we'll be doing a bit later as well. If this is your first time to Christ Table, welcome. My name's Kevin. I have the privilege of being lead clergy here at Christ Table. We will receive communion a little later, so I would encourage you to be ready to receive and participate in communion with us. All you need is something to eat and something to drink. It doesn't have to be wine, bread, or grape juice. It can be those things, but it can be anything at all that you wish. We're here just a few minutes before we get started in order to just welcome everybody, give you time to get here, and usually we will pose a question that oftentimes has nothing to do with spirituality or faith at all. Though I will admit that for me, eating candy is something of a religious experience. And so, I don't know what you found in your Easter basket this morning. I hope you found something in your Easter basket. If not, go and find a drugstore or a grocery store or Walmart or something in order to get you some Easter candy. Peeps or chocolate rabbits. This was a tough one for me when I posted. I was like, I don't know that I could choose between those two. Can I say yes to both? I think you can, or I guess if you want to choose something other than Peeps or chocolate rabbits, then you can select something else as well. This year, the Easter Bunny showed up with baskets for our kids that had s'mores Peeps in them. And while I do enjoy Peeps, they're not probably necessarily my favorite thing. My favorite is those Reese's peanut butter eggs. I think far and away probably my favorite. I would also like robin eggs. Let's just be honest, I like all of it. But s'mores, Peeps, I believe that there may need to be a tariff on this. We may be up to like 50% tariff. Dad may take like half of those Easter Bunny s'more Peeps because they look really, really good. I want to just say to all of you who are around Christ Table, thanks so much for being a part of what we're doing here. We just finished up our series on Divine Comedy. This was really, really cool. Looking forward to the next one. I also want to say that this week we have a really important email that's coming out from Christ Table. I know that we haven't sent an email out in a few weeks, and you'll know why whenever I send out this email that's going out this week. So if you're not already signed up for the email list there, www.christtable.today. It's nothing great, like we're not going away or anything like that, but I wanted to give you just some behind the scenes view, kind of pull back the curtains a little bit of what's going on behind Christ Table so that you can be kind of caught up to date. So if you've been wondering, what's going on, I haven't seen or heard or anything lately, this will give you some insight into what's going on. So make sure you sign up for the email list there, www.christtable.today, and we'll get all that news and those updates out to you a little later this week, probably closer to the end of the week, but we'll see whatever the timetable looks like there. I'm excited about today. So thankful for you being a part of Easter. Even if you're watching this by delay, we're glad that you are here. This is an important opportunity. I'm kind of looking forward to focusing on what we're going to focus on in the direction that we're going. And so we're going to kind of take a few twists and turns as we go through this morning's Easter. Maggie's going to be here in just a few minutes, and the songs that she has ready for us all the way up in Florence, Alabama, about an hour and a half away from here this morning. She is ready and on standby to bring those to us, and I'm looking forward to those as well. The watches on the other hand. Welcome to Christ Table. So glad that you're here this morning. Stick around. So I want to begin this morning with a thought that has been on my mind. And I promise that this entire message isn't going to center around current events. We're going to move towards the resurrection. But one of the things that is always important to me, the older that I get and the more that I find myself in this story of Jesus, is walking not just immediately into the hope and the story of the resurrection, but making sure that we walk through the pain and the suffering of Good Friday, even starting with the joy and the exuberance of the Thursday before and the supper and all of the excitement and the revelry and the togetherness of that, and then into the pain and the suffering of Friday, the surprise and grief that would have come along with that, and then into Holy Saturday, where there is darkness and calm and a lack of hope that everything has changed and nothing will ever be the same again. And then we arrive in the Sunday morning blessed resurrection moment where, yes, nothing will ever be the same again, but shockingly, it's not as though it's going to be worse from here on out, like everyone expected and assumed. And that was the trajectory from Friday into Saturday, but that everything will be better from here on because of the hope of the resurrection, because of Jesus. As I was talking to somebody else a little bit ago, Dolly Parton, he's alive. He's alive. He's alive. And that chant, that refrain continuing to repeat itself, even among those who couldn't yet grasp the significance of it. It's hard to grasp the significance of he's alive if you don't understand the significance of where things have been. One of the things that I have found helpful this year as I try to reconcile all the things that are going on in the world around me and this story of Jesus, or tried to find handles in other places to help me experience this story anew. One of the things that is a reality of this story is this story of Jesus and the crucifixion and the death of Jesus, all of this up before the resurrection, is about imperial violence. It's about the state, about the government, about Rome, inflicting upon Jesus an execution, a punishment of someone who was deemed to be a traitor to the state, a traitor to the Jewish people, but also a traitor to Rome. It was Roman crucifixion. And so I ran across this graphic that just kind of stopped me in my tracks. If you've been following anything in news right now, you know that Kilmar Abrego Garcia is being held in CCOT, a penitentiary, a jail, what amounts essentially to a concentration camp in El Salvador, wrongly. He was sent there wrongly, and our government has admitted that it was an error to send them there. There are lots of other things that are in question to this, but all of it kind of hinges on whether or not he deserves this. And if he doesn't deserve this punishment, the punishment is still there for now. And there's all of this tension. And Diana Butler Bass, who I sometimes reference here, wrote this kind of wonderful visual meditation on the story of Jesus and what we're witnessing in the news. And I want us to kind of set our politics aside for just a moment on both sides and on any side, and experience this visual meditation about imperialism and about imperial violence and how it intersects with the story of Jesus and the story that we're watching play out real time during Holy Week. Empire always leads to imperial violence, deserved or undeserved, is something that we have to recognize and wrestle with, especially from a Jesus who at his birth said that he would be the Prince of Peace and that his people would bring peace into the world, not violence. So I want to read the story of Jesus as written by Diana Butler Bass and put with it the visual metaphor, representations, the meditation, the pictures that she utilized as well as she walked through this story leading up to the resurrection. Then the detachment of soldiers with its commander and the religious officials arrested Jesus. So they bound Jesus, led him away, and handed him over to Pilate. Pilate asked whether the man was a Galilean, and when he learned that he was under Herod's jurisdiction, he sent him off to Herod, who was himself in Jerusalem at that time. Herod questioned him at some length, but Jesus gave him no answer. Herod with his soldiers treated him with contempt and mocked him. Then they put an elegant robe on him and sent him back to Pilate. That same day, Herod and Pilate became friends with each other. Before this, they had been enemies. Pilate then called together the chief priests and leaders and the people and said to them, "You brought me this man as one who was perverting the people, and here I have examined him in your presence and have not found this man guilty of any of your charges against him. Neither has Herod, for he sent him back to us. Indeed, he has done nothing to deserve death. I will therefore have him flogged and release him." Then they all shouted out together, "Away with this fellow! Release Barabbas for us!" This was a man who had been put in prison for an insurrection that had taken place in the city and for murder. Pilate wanted to release Jesus and address them again, but they kept shouting, "Crucify him! Crucify him!" A third time Pilate said to them, "Why? What evil has he done? I have found in him no ground for the sentence of death. I will therefore have him flogged and then release him." But they kept urgently demanding with loud shouts that he should be crucified, and their voices prevailed. So Pilate gave his verdict that their demands should be granted. He released the man they asked for, the one who had been put in prison for insurrection and murder, and he handed Jesus over as they wished. Then the soldiers led him into the courtyard of the palace, that is, the governor's headquarters, and they called together the whole cohort. And they clothed him in a purple coat, and after twisting some thorns into a crown, they put it on him, and they began saluting him, "Hail, King of the Jews!" They struck his head with a reed, spat upon him, and knelt in homage to him. And then after mocking him, they stripped him of the purple cloak and put his clothes on him. Two others who were also criminals were led away to be put to death with him. One of the criminals who were hanged there were deriding him, but the other rebuked him, saying, "Do you not fear God, since you are under the same sentence of condemnation? And we indeed have been condemned justly, for we were getting what we deserved for our deeds, but this man has done nothing wrong." Then he said, "Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom." And Jesus replied, "Truly, I tell you, today you will be with me in paradise." There were also women looking from a distance. Among them were Mary Magdalene, and Mary the mother of James the younger, and of Joseph, and of Salome. These used to follow him and provided for him when he was in Galilee. And there were many other women who had come up with him to Jerusalem. My God, why have you forsaken me?" It was now about noon, and darkness came over the whole land. Until 3 p.m. it was dark, while the sun's light failed, and the curtain of the temple was torn in two. Then Jesus, crying with a loud voice, said, "Father, into your hands I commend my spirit." The centurion, the Roman guard, seeing what had happened, said, "Certainly, this man was innocent." One of the things that I find difficult with the story of Jesus and the Passion is reminding myself that it is true. It's not just a story. And it's brutal. It's inhumane. and it's not unrepeatable. In fact, I have to admit that I likely would have been one of those shouting, "Crucify him." I likely would have been one of the ones, were it not for God's grace, I likely would have been one of the ones who was shouting to release an insurrectionist in order to crucify Jesus. Why? Because I have to admit that looking back on most of my 47 years, I have spent most of those years, or many of those years, steeped in hate and bigotry and ignorance, and in doing things that were ultimately working against and harming other people in order selfishly to help me. That wasn't the way that I saw it at the time, but all too often that is what was. We are all in danger of that. And the danger really is that we will believe that that can't be us, or that has never been us, or that that will never be us. That we are always the good guy in the story, or the good girl in the story. That we are altruistic. That the things that we believe in, that we work for, that we vote for, that we support, that we say, that we hold dear, are the right things, and that Jesus would approve of them. But history shows, and the Bible shows, that that is often not really the case. As we've said recently, the people in Germany, the Christians in Germany, most of the priests and pastors in Germany believe the same thing in their support of what that regime is doing. Imperial regimes always eventually bring violence. And history bears out that those imperial regimes that bring about violence, most often to those who are least deserving of it, the most vulnerable, the most oppressed, the most marginalized, are often and almost always supported by people of faith. No matter which country, no matter which time period, no matter which empire, people of faith throw the gas on the fires that harm and oftentimes even kill other people. So I have to think that I, and potentially, maybe even likely you, would have been one of those who were shouting, "Crucify him." And then when we come to the story of the resurrection, would we have even believed that this person who we now hated was alive? And if so, how would that affect us? Would we ever be able to buy into the truth of the resurrection of this Easter Sunday morning, when we had done everything that we could to incarcerate and kill Jesus? I have to think that we would not be very happy to see Jesus back alive again, when we were part of the reason why he was where he was and had supported it. Maybe for some of us, whenever I referred to Mr. Garcia as being Jesus, your heart stopped for just a moment, because you're not in agreement that this individual should have much other done to him than incarceration and crucifixion, perhaps death. And this CCOT in El Salvador, it is a death sentence. No one comes out. Think about that. No one comes out alive. Wouldn't we want to make sure that the folks who went there were deserving of that kind of a sentence, rather than just rounding up people of a certain ethnicity who we think may or may not have been a part of a gang? I don't know. I think so. But I also think that we would have wanted to have had those same standards for Jesus as well, that we'd want to make sure that he had done the things that they had said that he did, that he was deserving of that kind of punishment. But the crowd didn't. The religious crowd didn't. And neither do many of the religious crowds today. So we come into this morning, this day of resurrection and celebration of it. For me, questioning whether or not I truly would have been excited about the resurrection, whether or not I truly would have believed it. The story is fascinating whenever we look at it too. We miss so much in this story, and obviously in these next couple of minutes we can't dive into the depths of all the nuances and all of the ups and the downs of this story, and many other people have. But let's just look at it from Luke, because Luke is the standard textual reading for this Easter. All four of the Gospels tell this story. On the first day of the week, at early dawn, the women who had come with Jesus from Galilee came to the tomb, taking the spices that they had prepared. It's interesting. The women are pointed out at the foot of the cross. No men. And the women are pointed out here as well. They found the stone rolled away from the tomb, but when they went in, they did not find the body. And that was a shock. While they were perplexed, that is an understatement about how they felt in the way it's written in the Greek, about this, suddenly two men in dazzling clothes stood beside of them. The women were absolutely terrified, and they bowed their faces to the ground. But the men said to them, "Why do you look for the living among the dead? He's not here. He's risen." Dolly Parton, he's alive. He's alive. Remember how he told you while he was still in Galilee that the Son of Man must be handed over to sinners, must be crucified on the third day, he would rise again. And the women are like, in one ear and out the other, didn't really believe it. Sounded like crazy talk, didn't really register. But then in that moment, they remembered his words. And returning from the tomb, they tell all of this to the 11 and to all of the rest of the people who are gathered in hiding for fear. Now it was Mary Magdalene, Joanna, Mary the mother of James, and the other women who then told this to the apostles. So the women, they were the first ones there. They were the first ones who knew, and they went and told the men. But these words seemed to the men to be an idle tale, and they didn't believe it. But Peter gets up and runs to the tomb, and stooping and looking in, he saw the linen clothes by themselves, and then he went home, amazed at what had happened. That statement, Peter was amazed at what had happened, was the same statement essentially made about the women, that they were amazed at what had happened. And you kind of know what happens from here. The news begins to spread. People aren't really sure what happens. Jesus begins appearing to people, and the story goes from there. But it's interesting. Women were the first to witness the resurrection, and nobody believed their story. You know, in this world, in this time period of AI and deep fakes and Photoshop, it can be difficult sometimes to ascertain where the truth is and who to believe. I mean, speaking of Mr. Garcia, who we were talking about just a few minutes ago, yesterday or 2 days ago on Good Friday, the president releases this picture in the Oval Office of these tattoos on his wrist, on his knuckles, I mean, and then MS-13 is written on there. If you look at other pictures of Garcia, there are no other pictures other than that one that have MS-13. Photoshop was used to put those letters and numbers on there above the tattoos, and now everybody thinks that he has MS-13 on his knuckles, and he doesn't. It's so hard to know who to believe and what to believe. And so what do? We end up doing the same things that people have done for all of history. We believe who we believe is trustworthy. And oftentimes the folks that we put our trust in are not trustworthy. And oftentimes the folks that we don't trust are the people who are to be trusted. Why is that? Well, I think it's oftentimes because the people who are trustworthy, who we don't trust, are oftentimes the one who are telling us things that we don't want to hear. that we don't want to be true. And so we don't count them as trustworthy. And we would rather believe the people who are telling us what we want to hear. And so we count them as being the experts, even though they're not, and even though they're not right. And the folks who are saying to us things that we don't want to hear, that we don't want to be true, we discount as not being trustworthy. And so we get it backwards, the upside down kingdom of man and the upside down kingdom of God. Women were the first to witness the resurrection, and nobody believed their testimony. And all the women who are listening are like, all the time. Happens all the time. Man says something, oh, that must be true. I say something as a female, discounted, ignored, or needs to be supported by a man. Girl, it has been going on far longer than you've been alive. And it's not okay. It's hard for me to imagine witnessing something as powerful and as momentous as the resurrection. Women witnessing it and not being believed. To witness and have your testimony dismissed. And to have been first but relegated to the last. It's interesting. If you were to read through all four of the Gospels, not just Luke, but if you were to also read through Matthew, Mark, and John, one of the things that you would notice is that in the resurrection story, almost none of the details are the same. And this oftentimes happens in first-person events where there is trauma or a catastrophe or something crazy that happens, is that eyewitness reports are very unreliable because everybody sees something different. And oftentimes those things can even seemingly be in conflict. This happens in the four eyewitness reports as well, as Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John lay out the stories of the resurrection that either they were a part of or some of them that they're relaying on behalf of those who were. But there is one detail among all of these four that is pointed out that is the same. And it is that the women make the discovery, but they don't get the credit in history for it. In fact, even Paul, the great apostle Paul, when he is writing back about this event, writes in 1 Corinthians 15 that Christ died for our sins according to the scriptures, that he was buried, that he was raised on the third day according to the scriptures, and that he appeared to Peter and then to the 12. No, Paul, he appeared to the women. He appeared to Mary Magdalene first before he appeared to Peter. Go back and read the text. Doesn't even mention the women. After that, he appears to 500 brothers and sisters at the same time. Rando crowds get higher billing than Mary Magdalene and the other Marys who made the discovery that nobody may have ever known about the resurrection of Jesus if it weren't for those women going and giving testimony to the 12 who didn't even believe them. That's why they went to the tomb. If you read closely in the story, they went to the tomb because they didn't believe them. I have to imagine that Mr. Garcia's family, and maybe even Mr. Garcia himself, if he's had any access to the news that's going on, most of the people don't believe the story. Want to believe something different. Why? Because we don't want to believe that we have incarcerated an innocent man. We don't want to believe that we have sent an innocent man to his death, or anyone. And so we have to convince ourselves of things that are now demonstrably untrue. We have, admittedly, sent innocent people to this place and refused to get them back. We know that now. And yet we move on. In fact, we want to believe that they weren't innocent so that we can move on and look away and not have to feel shame or guilt or worry. We want to be able to trust. And so we leverage others' pain and suffering for our freedom. Without the resurrection of Jesus, you have no spiritual freedom. And if we withhold life and resurrection from others, then what good is our own freedom and hope if others don't have it? You see, there's an interesting part of the story here, and that religious people in Christianity for 2,000 years have been ignoring truth and those who speak it. The women. The women were the key. There are four common themes in all four of the Gospels whenever they tell the story of hope and resurrection. All of them speak of an open tomb and a burial cloth that is disturbed. Out of all the details that are different, all of them speak of Jesus being gone or in dazzling glory. All of them speak of Mary Magdalene, the woman, and women with her friends. And all of them speak of a commission, not to men, but a commission to the women to preach and proclaim what they have witnessed. And so the women need to speak. And Paul and the apostles, God bless their hearts, spent a whole lot of time ignoring the direct commands of Jesus about his resurrection. And that everybody has a voice. And that everybody matters. And the hope of the gospel isn't just that a few people get to celebrate, that all of us get to celebrate. The hope of the gospel and the resurrection isn't just that a few of us get to speak and have a voice, but all of us get to speak and have a voice. The church has continued to oppress the people that God told us not to oppress. Women. And in the United States, the church has continued to oppress people who God told us not to oppress. And that is people who are our neighbors and people who are marginalized because of their skin color. Women are still being oppressed. Those who are unlike us are still being oppressed. This should be a day of hope and resurrection. But this can only be a day of true hope and resurrection for you and for me if we allow it to be a day of true hope and resurrection for everybody. Jesus came to set all captives free. And as for the church is never at her best except for when she is setting captives free, whom the world says deserves pain. It may be time to listen to the voices that you and I least want to hear from. It was time for those apostles and for Peter to listen to the voices whom they least wanted to hear from, the women. Because they did eventually do so, they experienced the hope and the joy of the resurrection and a transformed life lived with Jesus. And only when and if you and I also become willing to listen to the voices who speak truth, the truth which we least want to hear, from the voices which we least want to hear it from, only when we do that do we experience true hope and resurrection and allow others, as Jesus demanded, to experience hope and resurrection as well. Thanks be to God. Happy Resurrection Day. May today bring new hope and new life, not just to your spirit, but to all the captives.
I searched the world. But is now satisfied here in your love. Oh, there's nothing better than you, Lord. There's nothing better than you, Lord. There's nothing. Nothing is better than you. Now I'm not afraid to show you my weakness, my failures and flaws. God, you've seen them all. You still call me friend. 'Cause God of the mountains is the God of the valley, and there's not a place your mercy and grace won't find me again. Oh, there's nothing better than you, Lord. There's nothing better than you, Lord. There's nothing. Nothing is better than you. You turn mourning to dancing. You give beauty for ashes. You turn shame into glory. You're the only one who can. You turn graves into gardens. You turn bones into armies. You turn seas into highways. You're the only one who can. You're the only one who can. Oh, there's nothing better than you, Lord. There's nothing better than you, Lord. There's nothing. Nothing is better than you. We're creation suddenly articulate with 1,000 tongues to lift one cry. Oh, then from north to south and east to west, with your Christ be magnified. And were the whole earth echoing His eminence, His name would burst from sea and sky, from rivers to the mountain tops. With your Christ be magnified. Christ be magnified. Let His praise arise. Christ be magnified in me. Oh, Christ be magnified on the altar of my life. Christ be magnified in me. When every creature finds its inmost melody, and every human heart its maiden cry, then in stand strong and worship you. And if it puts me in the fire, I'll rejoice because you're there too. Oh, I won't be formed by feelings. I hold fast to what is true. And if the cross brings transformation, I'll be crucified with you. Cause I know that death is just a doorway into resurrection life. And if I join you in your suffering, then I'll join you when you rise. And when you return in glory with all the angels and the saints, now my heart will still be singing, my song will be the same. Oh, Christ be magnified, let his praise arise. Christ be magnified in me. Oh, Christ be magnified in the altar of my life. Christ be magnified in me.
Thank you, Maggie. As we continue on in this Easter Sunday morning celebration, we're going to spend just a moment in prayer, and then we'll move on to communion. Make sure that you have something that you can celebrate communion with us, something to eat, something to drink. One of the great truths of Easter is that it comes with this story of forgiveness, and how Christians now, being little Christ, have a responsibility, a commission to forgive others and to lobby and advocate for the forgiveness of others, especially the worst among us. This is one of the things that I think, the story, that we've been talking through a little bit through here, and this idea of Garcia's being Jesus is a reminder to us of what our call is to be. Not to be vigilantes, not to be sheriffs on behalf of empire, but to be experts in the law of God, which is grace and mercy and forgiveness and love of those who are most broken, who have done the worst. Why? Because we were forgiven. Even in the state of our brokenness and denial of need, we were forgiven. So Christians, it's time for us to change the way we operate in this world. It's time for us to begin advocating for the least of these. It's time for us to begin to be people who spread hope rather than hate, who spread help rather than harm, who defend those who are defenseless, who don't just protect the perceived innocent, but also protect and help the perceived guilty. Why? Because that is what Christ did over and over again. Is he stood in between the vigilantes and the hate and the empire and those whom they targeted. Rightly or wrongly, Jesus continued to stand in between them. And now, you and I are the hands and feet of Jesus. It is now our job to act like Jesus, not the centurions, who realized only after death that truly this man was innocent whom we had condemned. Stop condemning people. We're going to spend just a moment in prayer. If you want to send in those prayer requests wherever you're watching, either live right now or by delay, you can just put them in the chat. You can put them in the comments. We will see those, and we do pray for those whenever they come in. If it's too long, if it's too personal, you can put pray for me or unspoken requests, or you can send it to us privately, and we will pray for those and respond to you. Let's pray. Dear Lord, thank you for your grace and your love and your forgiveness that's covered us. And Lord, on this Easter, may we recommit to you to give that hope, and grace and mercy to other people on your behalf. Not just those who we perceive as being deserving, but just like you have done, but to those who are least deserving as well. Lord, may we be your hands and your feet, not giving punishment, but giving help to those who are in need, who need someone to stand alongside them, to help them up and to help them out. May we be the neighbor that so many other followers of God are not. May we give love extraordinarily because of our recognition that we have received extraordinary love from you, even when we were least deserving of it. Lord, I do pray for these requests that are coming in. I pray for those who are in pain this morning, who are suffering, who are lost, who feel defeated or depressed, who are in need physically, emotionally, spiritually, financially. Would you hold each and every one of these people, give them a sense of your presence and your peace? And would you send others into their midst to be your hands and your feet in the hours and days ahead? And Lord, on this Easter Sunday, as our act of faith and unity, we together pray the words of the prayer aloud that you gave to us. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory forever. Amen. Before we go today, I want to celebrate communion with you. If you've not already done so, go ahead and quickly get something so that you can eat and drink with us in communion. If it's bread, wine, grape juice, that's great. If not, anything, honestly, will do. I have a chalice here with water, and I actually have a chip. That's what I'm going to use today for communion. And all of you are welcome to participate in communion with us. It's an opportunity to recenter yourself, to remember Jesus and the hope of that resurrection, to re-engage with forgiveness. But no one can prevent you from being a part of this meal. And if a church or a person has ever tried to stand in the way of you and sitting at the Lord's Supper at Christ's table, I'm sorry. That was wrong. It's not the church's table. The church can't prevent you from sitting at Christ's table. I can't prevent you. No pastor can prevent you from sitting at Christ's table. Judas sat at Christ's table. And Jesus served Judas just as though he did everybody else. So you are welcome to sit at Christ's table. Always. No matter where you are in your journey with Jesus, even if you're not on a journey with Jesus, you're welcome here. And you're welcome to participate in communion with us. On the night that Jesus was betrayed, and tortured, and executed, he shared a meal with his friends. And at that meal, he took some bread from the table and he broke it. And giving it to his disciples, he said, "Take and eat this, for this is my body, which is broken for you. As often as you eat this, remember me." And so with this, we remember Jesus' love and forgiveness, his stand with the oppressed and the marginalized, no matter how guilty they were. Remember those people who hung on the cross. They were deeply guilty. And yet Jesus still welcomed them and loved them and pulled them out. This do in remembrance of me. Then at the end of the meal, Jesus took the cup that was on the table and he passed it around to all of his disciples. And he said, "Drink all of this. For this cup is a new covenant, a new agreement between God and man for the forgiveness of sins. As often as you drink this, do so and remember me." And so with this cup, this is the cup of forgiveness. It is a reminder to us that you have been forgiven and that Christ's work on the cross and in the resurrection offers forgiveness for you from God and for all of those things. Now it's time to drink fully from this forgiveness. and then allow it to overflow out of you into forgiving other people. This do in remembrance of me. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious to you. May God's face radiate with joy because of you and bring you peace. And may the peace of the Lord Jesus Christ go with you wherever he may send you. May he guide you through the wilderness, protect you through the storms. May he bring you home rejoicing at all the wonders that he has shown you, and may he bring you home rejoicing once again soon to our doors. It's been good to be with you on this Easter Sunday morning. Looking forward to being back with you a week from now as we continue on in our Sunday journeys. And until that time, God bless you. Have a great week. Happy Resurrection Day.
Don't know how I got here, but I'm blessed. Didn't know it'd take me past my destiny. You're behind me with the rest, 'cause I'm a mess. No more you,
And I go home. You said things could only get better. I needed more than ever. They don't go. How can I believe you when everything is secret, secret? Everything is secret, secret. Everything is secret, secret. Everything is secret. How can I believe it when everything is secret, secret? You see through, gotta make space for the new you, like I'm old news in your rearview mirror. It must be nice you went and got a penthouse, all your friends partying is real loud. Brand new money with a brand new chest, still a baby bird price straight off the nest like you. No more, yeah. And I go home. You said things could only get better. I needed more than ever. They don't. How can I believe you when everything is secret, secret? Everything is secret, secret. Everything is secret, secret. Everything is secret. How can I believe it when everything is secret? I go home. You said things could only get better. I needed more than ever. They don't.